Welcome to Shomach Shova and Dav. She responds to Loinishma Sam Yakushom Nabasitzchok. We're holding in Horayos Dav Tes. The Gemara Mudal tells us that the Kohen Gadol needs to be the richest Kohen. And Achayim add and say, Minyan Shim Ein Loi Gadleu Mishal Echov. If he doesn't have, his brothers have to give him money. Tomud Loirava Kohen HaGadol Mei Echov. Gadleu Mei Echov. He grows and he is being supported by his brothers. There's seemingly a very large debate among the Rishonim regarding can someone who learns Torah be supported by others. The Rambam in Pirush Mishnayos on Avos Perek Dal Mishneh, on the Mishnah that says Al Tasem Atorah Liskadol Behem V'Lo Kardoim Lachfor Behem. One should not use the Torah to be a vessel in order to gain from it. So the Rambam there writes very, very stark that someone who's learning Torah should never be supported because he's learning Torah. And he goes on to bring several rayas that we see that the Chachamim who used to be working, used to be supporting themselves. They did not want to be miskabed before the Torah. They want to get something to gain anything from the Torah. And he attacks very strongly the ones who hold differently, and they think that people do have to be supporting Torah. The Maharal and the Chaim Perek Al Mishnah Yud also seems to go in a similar mahalach, even though it's not so stark like the Rambam. But the Maharal writes in Perek Al Mishnah Yud on the Mishnah that says that if Chachamim need to be misparnis, they have to be supported by others, that takes away the cover of the Torah. And he says that it's a great mailot to be oyev the melacha, to love melacha. And he goes on to extend to say that a person who's working and learning, that limud Torah is the hashlam of the nefesh of the Adam. And the melacha is the hashlam of the guf of the Adam. And that's the pshat in the Gemara Brachos that says, Kol haneh migia gapoi, he's greater than Yirei Shamayim. Because in Yigia Papa means he's working, he's mashlim himself. So this seems to be in one end of the spectrum. On the other end, we have the Tashbetz and the Tshuvas, the Chelkav, Sirkuv Mebeis, that he says is a very big inyan to support Torah. And he brings a raya from our Gemara, because we're going to learn later in our Masechta that Kohen is greater than Levi. Levi is greater than Yisrael. But Tamei Chacham is greater than all of them. And a Mamza Tamei Chacham comes before Kohen Gadol Amaretz. So if you need to support the Kohen Gadol, and he has to be supported by his brothers, so Kol Shekar Tamei Chacham should be supported by his brothers. And he brings the Gemara in the next daf, that there the story with Rabbi Gamliel, that he wanted his Talmidim to have a parnasos, he made them Rosh Hashivas. So you see that Am Yisrael used to support the Rosh Hashivas. And he continues to say that was the minig in all the generations, that there was the Loim Dei Torah was supported by the Kohol, by the Kehilas, and that's a great thing to do. And Lamai said this machlekes is brought down in the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah in Siman Reish Memvav Seiv Chof Aleph, he brings at the beginning the sheet of the Rambam that a person should learn Torah and should support himself, and a person should not enjoy Torah to get money from Torah. And he writes, it's a big mile for a person to support himself. That's how he says the first part. Then he says, V'yesh oimrim, and the marker for it is the Tshuvas Tashbetz, that you could come and be supported. That's the minig in Klal Yisrael. The rabbi, the people learning Torah, being supported by the people of the city. But the Ramah concludes and says, someone can support himself. That's a great gift from Hashem. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody can learn Torah, become smart in Torah, and also to support himself. The Rav Moshe Feinstein in Tshuva, and the Res Moshe, and your Derech Chalek Beis in Mekufet Zayin, he has a tshuva about this. He says this question: if today there's any problem for someone to take money for learning Torah, to be supported, and Rav Moshe says the Miman Shach today you could do it. Either because we hold like the Tashbetz, that brings a right from our Gemara, that Loim Dei Torah should be supported, or even if you hold like the Rambam, But that was only in the original generations that you could have learned Torah and be fully immersed in Torah and still work. But in our generation, it's not shaykh. If someone is working, so he's not learning fully. And if a person wants to learn fully, he's not going to be able to work. And he says, someone who says, no, I want to follow the Rambam, and I want to be able to learn Torah and also work, he says it's atzas a yetzer in this generation. Because that means it's really the Yetzer Hara is trying to get him out of learning. And that's what he tells him, is you're going to do both. But really to do both today is almost impossible. So he concludes that today, either we hold like the dash pits, that one can be supported, or even according to the Rambam, that usually you can't, but and today we don't have another choice. But we see the mokar for the tashbetz is our Gemara in Horayos Daf Tes. Anyone who wants to join the Shomachshava email list to WhatsApp, please email shomachshava@gmail.com.